and Brews here at Cup of Code in Northumberland, PA. Thank you to everyone who is going to be joining us either live online or following up with us in the days and weeks to come. My name is Norm Jones, one of the partners here at Cup of Code, which is a website, digital marketing, and social media marketing firm. Very excited today to talk about our special guest, Lori, and talk about reputation management. But before we get into that, I want to talk a little bit about the partners and how we do what we do. We want to thank W&S Distributors, who provides us with delicious beverages. Today it is Whiteout, and that is a double IPA. I think that this is aptly being offered today because there's a Whiteout coming out this weekend at Penn State, a big Penn State Oregon game, and so I'll be at my child's soccer match instead of watching that. But I'm sure there'll be a lot of people that are going to be watching that thing. So we want to thank Ivy Coffee, who's provided us with some delicious Java throughout the BBB. And I want to thank the Bucknell Small Business Development Center. Stephen, if you would say a few words. Pass the microphone to you, my friend.
Thank you very much, Norm. Hi, everyone. I'm Steve Stumbers. I direct Bucknell University's Small Business Development Center. Norm, thanks always for having us back here and for partnering with us to help businesses of the region tell their stories. I know we're going to hear more about that today from Lori. Really excited about what you have to share. But for those of you, very few of you who haven't taken full advantage of the resources that Bucknell University brings to the region, the SBDC is one of those. Workshops, educational training and information, and the opportunity to sit down with folks like Denny Hummer, Amber Guerrero, myself, and Ray Hayden, another cool, vital member of our team. Set a plan for where you want to go with your business. Set those goals. Sit down with us and strategize, and we help you plan how to reach those goals. So one-on-one consulting and education from the SBDC. Want to learn more? Connect with any of us today and get together with us. I want to introduce, bring Denny up here and give him a chance to join me and Norm in welcoming Lori for her presentation today. Denny serves as the assistant director for the Bucknell SBDC and is excellent in so many ways. You all know that already.
Thank you, Steve. And thanks for giving me the opportunity. Lori, I guess I get to introduce you today. And
I don't know what I'm in for.
I'll tell you, I can think pretty quick on my feet. So I got to tell you, last June, I think it was Lisa's presentation. We were here. And I looked across the room and I saw you sitting there and I was like, oh my gosh, she looks just like someone from our past, but we used to work together. And I was like, holy mackerel. And then it actually was you. And so Laurie and I, for those of you that don't know, worked together at a restaurant in Danville called the Muffin Man. And I owned that for quite a few years. And we got to share a lot of entrepreneurial stories together. And I thought how fitting that I've been watching your career from afar through LinkedIn and Facebook and have watched you do all of these amazing things with, helping people navigate this crazy digital world that we live in. So I think back to the pre-digital era in the Muffin Man days and how you've come all this far with this and have now actually relocated back to our area. And so welcome back. We're glad to have you back. It makes me almost want to start a restaurant again, but we'll let that pass. I love what I do now. And just thank you for sharing your wisdom with us today on reputation management and managing reviews. So I can't wait to learn more. So thank you for everything.
Yeah. All right, Denny. Thank you for the kind words. Lori, I'm not going to belabor this. Has everyone in the room maybe had a negative review at some time across either a Google, a social platform? Raise your hand if you have, or you've seen one. Okay, great. All the hands are up. And so without further ado, what in the world do we do when we get a negative review? I know that's
I'm going to talk about that. You respond. That is for sure. Thank you. Norm and Denny for the introductions. Hopefully I can live up to those expectations. In June, I did attend my first meeting here, and Lisa got a lot of great questions about review management. How do you respond to reviews? What do you do if you get a negative review? And that is one area where I can impart some wisdom. So volunteer, raise my hand to present, and am very excited to be here with you today. I actually think it's great that it's a smaller group, so look forward to answering questions as well. So who am I, aside from someone who used to work at the Muffin Man with Denny and went to high school with Norm and Lisa? I am Laurie Roma. I lead social, digital, and influencer for ICR Blue Engine, which is a global PR and IR firm, but have worked in the marketing and public relations space for the better part of 20 plus years, focusing the last 13, 14 years on digital and social, and more recently, influencer. But more notably, as it pertains to reputation management, while at Universal Health Services, where I was for almost a decade, I was able to build out an enterprise level reputation management team. We fought for that for a number of years. We were able to identify things that we thought would maybe become legal issues, or that we could turn around, situations that we could turn around if we were working with patient advocates at the local level. And fortunately, we're able to move that initiative forward and actually win awards for our work. And then, unfortunately, had my fair share of crisis experience, but it's also very important to think forward about that and have a plan ready to go. And my team also led crisis response for the October 1st shooting. UHS owns the Valley Health System in Las Vegas. As it pertains to small business, why is reputation management and responding to online reviews so important? And it is because we're in very tight-knit communities, and word of mouth is everything. Negative reviews spread very quickly, and being proactive in not only soliciting positive reviews, if you know someone's really thrilled with your service, but proactively having a plan as to how to tackle negative reviews and thinking forward about various scenarios and what are frequently asked questions that you're receiving, what types of questions or complaints can you anticipate, and how are you going to answer those in the online space. That is going to pay off dividends as it applies to building trust and credibility, and also not only just among your customers, but in your communities and among your peers and competition, quite frankly. Online reviews matter now more than ever. Great question at the beginning. How many of you have left an online review? How many of you look at reviews before you purchase a clothing item, let alone go to a restaurant? Or, as you'll hear a little bit more, how many of you have recently moved back to the area and you don't know who can get squirrels out of your attic? You will hear about that too. But some of these statistics are, I think, very compelling. 91% of consumers read online reviews before making purchasing decisions. 73% of consumers view positive reviews super high when it comes to making a decision. If you're reading a positive review, are you more likely to make a purchase? Are you more likely to pick up a phone and schedule a service? And then no one's going to complain about this. If your business rating goes up 1 star, that usually translates to a 5 to 9% improvement in your revenue. Again, no complaints there. And then, as we all know, negative reviews spread super fast. So do you have a plan to make that negative review work for you? For small businesses, I want you to consider these big takeaways. It's a first impression. No matter if it's positive or negative, a review is a first impression. It's a competitive differentiator, especially when you're responding to reviews. How many travel agencies or restaurants are there in the area that aren't responding to reviews? But if you are, if someone is using those reviews to make a decision about whether or not to visit your restaurant or use your services, that's going to be a decision maker. They're going to show that you care. that you're engaged, and that you want people to be satisfied with the service that you're offering. And then something that is often overlooked is that reviews are free marketing. It's free marketing that is on the internet 24/7. It might be 3 a.m. and someone is, up at night and they're realizing like, oh my gosh, I didn't schedule someone to mow my lawn when I'm on vacation. And that is when they're looking at the online reviews and making their decision. You don't even have to answer a phone call. You don't have to answer a form fill from your website. It is just there working for you. The footnotes here, customers also expect authentic and transparent feedback. Surprisingly, businesses with a mix of positive and negative reviews rank higher and appear more credible, which everyone thinks like we should only have 5-star reviews. Not necessarily the case. And then transparency builds connection. It makes you more relatable. And we'll talk a little bit more about how you can tell your own story and weave that into reviews and talk about all the things that matter to your business and your values. No new information here. These are just the platforms that you should be looking at. Google, why is that so important? I'm not going to talk about claiming your profile and making sure everything's set up correctly, but that of course is very important because it appears in search results and maps, and people are trying to find businesses using a near me prompt. So that is essential to make sure you're monitoring. Facebook, it's social proof. People are on the platform, whether or not they're updating their personal accounts, they are looking for testimonials and before and after pictures, and they are looking at reviews on that platform. And then Yelp, not necessarily as important as it once was, but it's important to see what is there and whether or not you need to be responding. And then anything relevant to your industry. Is there something specific for travel? Is there something specific for restaurants or for services like yours, trying to get people to use a limo service to get to and from airports? Angie's List is a really good example, or I believe it's just called Angie's now. It's a really good example for people looking to find general contractors or someone to do work on your home. So making sure you kind of have an idea of what is happening on all of those platforms. It's a lot to monitor, but if you make time to do it and you set your account up so that you can respond proactively, it again will pay off in the long run. So all of this is great, but what does that mean? How do you do this? What should you not do? And we'll spend quite a bit of time here. Brady, the last time he presented in August, he talked about CRMs and how important it is to respond very quickly. He said, if you can respond in the first 2 minutes to a form fill that comes through or a DM that comes through your social media accounts. I would recommend 24 hours as it applies to review management. If you can, sooner is always better, but you may need to do some due diligence. You might need to look up an invoice. What work did you actually do? You might not have provided that exact service. It might have been an employee who, say, mowed that lawn or chopped down that tree. You need to find out what exactly happened. You might need to talk to that employee. You might need to review a contract that was signed before you answer. So make sure you do that research and apply accurately rather than replying hastily and maybe missing something. Stay professional and be empathetic. Always thank the reviewer for the feedback, even if it's negative. That can be hard, and I understand that you don't want to thank somebody for a negative review, but take yourself out of the equation. I promise there is a payoff and a method to this madness. Look at that review from a new customer and the potential there. If there is no prior knowledge to your business, they are just looking to figure out whether or not they want to use your services, and there's a negative review there, and they see someone arguing or going back and forth in the review comments, that could be very off-putting. They may not pick up the phone. They likely won't pick up the phone to call you. If you thank them, provide a little bit of information, ask them to take the conversation offline. I'll provide some examples of what you might be able to say to do that in a few slides. that is going to be more compelling. It shows that you care, you're empathetic, you're thanking them, you want to take the conversation offline, you want to provide them for an opportunity to talk with you, to solve the problem. You're not offering them a refund, you're not offering them a free service. You just want to have a conversation, but it shows that you care, and that goes a long way. Take responsibility when appropriate, but be mindful of any legalities for your industry. If you're a home health company, are you violating HIPAA if you take responsibility? Are you in breach of contract, actually? If you take responsibility, you could be opening yourself up for litigation. So it adds another layer and it makes things seem really difficult, but again, do that research, slow down, don't panic when you see a negative review. Just take your time and be very, very thoughtful in how you're crafting and approaching that response. And then my biggest takeaway would be to respond but not engage. Don't get in a back and forth publicly. It looks really bad ultimately. Volunteer to take the conversation offline. If someone chooses to come back at you, it reflects more on them than it does on you. And potential customers and existing customers will see that. Be careful to not ignore negative reviews. It can also be easy to forget they're there. They really bug you. You might take some time and think about it, and then you forget to go back to that negative review. It happens. It's okay, but do respond if you can. Again, don't become argumentative or defensive. It's your small business. You've put your savings into it. This is what you do day in, day out. You're very proud of it. It's very easy to want to get defensive. But when you, again, remove yourself from the situation and think about how it looks from a potential customer's view, it's going to pay off to not get argumentative. If you're not taking responsibility, don't make excuses. Again, less is more when you're replying to negative reviews. Whatever you do, the next few are very, very important. Do not reveal customer details or private information when you're responding. Don't reveal any kind of negative information or sensitive information or speak negatively about the customer. Or if they're saying, I'm not going to your restaurant again, I'm going down the road, and they name another business, don't badmouth that business. They didn't ask to be brought into the review. It is going to make more sense if you just gloss over that. Don't even bring that up when you're responding. And then, of course, don't just copy and paste a generic response time and time again. Try to customize it as best as possible. And that's where it's going to make a lot of sense to develop a framework in advance. So what are those frequently asked questions? Is it pricing, services, hours, cancellation policies that you frequently hear about? Is it service from wait staff? Is it maybe a trip, somebody had a flight cancellation and you didn't pick up the phone the first time they called, but you picked up the second time, but they're mad you didn't pick up the first time. Whatever those situations may be, if you can predict those and develop some responses, having that ready ahead of time is going to make things so much less stressful when you feel that immediate sense of panic when you read that first negative review that you get. And then just thought of some common issues that may pop up because it may be difficult to think about what some of those could be. I do want to stress that staff behavior is an area where we're seeing more and more questions or concerns from clients. And I'll talk about this on a couple of different slides coming up too. It could be a comment that an employee made on a post related to something about politics. It could even be a former employee who doesn't work at your organization anymore, but their Facebook and their LinkedIn says that they still do. And they made a comment and it's going viral, and now it's your problem. So how are you going to handle that? Most likely just having a statement prepared that this person is no longer with the organization will suffice, but just be thoughtful and have that ready to go. And then some examples. As I mentioned, I did indeed buy a house that had squirrels in the attic. I knew that going into it, and I did it anyway. But one of the first things I had to do when I moved in was solve that problem. And because of the way that Zimmerman Wildlife Solutions was responding to reviews, I chose to work with them and had an excellent experience. And when they came to my house to do the free quote, they asked how I found them, and I said your online reviews, and they were shocked. They did not realize how many impressions a review response receives, or even reviews. I think a lot of people assume this is just communication between you and the person leaving the review, but there's a lot of eyes on these. And thinking about that and the decision-making power that goes into these will help you frame out responses, I promise you. And the second example is really hard for me because this is actually someone I had a great experience with and chose to work with them because of how well they were responding to reviews. I also have a wood burning stove, and I needed someone when I moved in to clean my wood burning stove and my chimney, and they did great. And within the last, I'm not revealing who it is, but within the last year, the person who originally came to my house retired, he sold his business, and now the person is getting very defensive in the comments, argumentative, going after the person who hired them. It's just not a good look. I will likely not use them again because of this. And I work in the space. So again, think about how potential customers are looking at your responses. And then I promise these are very generic. I do encourage you when you're responding to different scenarios to inject some personality, talk about your values, share your story, but did want to talk about the general setup and how to respond. For a positive review, always, again, in all of these scenarios, thank the individual. You want to use their name. However, in the online space, I think you all know that sometimes you're going to get a review from somebody and it's very clearly not a real person's name. Whether it's a spam review or it's like, I love hot dogs 87, you're not going to say, thank you, I love hot dogs 87. But as best as you can, try to address the person by their name. And then let them know you take feedback seriously. With negative and neutral reviews, I would refrain from using the word experience because it's a bit more validating to what happened. Let them know you appreciate their feedback. Positives, that's so easy, but neutral and negative, I want to talk about a little bit more. Neutral reviews, there's a lot of value in them. A 3-star review, they're okay. You know, they're the person who is reviewing you was satisfied, but you didn't wow them. You didn't completely disappoint them, but you didn't knock their socks off. But what can you do to turn that 3-star in a review into a 5-star the next time you provide that service to somebody or potentially to this person again? This is an opportunity for you to win this person over. So again, let them know your feedback matters. You want to take the conversation offline. And hopefully you have the opportunity to not only work with them again, but learn from that experience. Is it a process improvement that needs to be made? Is it something as simple as, you know, the service went 5 minutes over and they were late for an obligation? It may be something, you know, beyond your control, but you just don't know. You want to find out. For the negative experience, again, I would not say that word, just use the word feedback. And then take the opportunity to get the conversation offline and learn more. I wouldn't go too much into the details of the negative review. I would also not recommend, again, getting argumentative or going point by point. And you'll want to do that. You want to defend yourself. You want to set the record straight. And you want to like almost plead with anyone who's reading this review. Especially the response. But this is actually a better opportunity for you to turn whatever that negative review is into a positive spin for that potential customer. So keep it short and sweet, take the conversation offline, And again, always include some kind of statement like we strive to provide a certain standard of care or service. We want to serve our community and our clients better. This gives us the chance to improve. You're not offering a refund. You're not offering a free service, but you are relaying to anyone else reading this that you care, that you're giving the person who left you a negative review the opportunity to communicate with you, and they will assume you're setting things straight and that you're solving a problem or fixing the situation. So is all of this worth it? If you're doing all of this work, which is work on top of everything you're doing day to day otherwise, is it going to pay off? Are you going to see that 5 to 9% improvement in revenue? Over time, the answer is yes. It's not going to happen in 1 week or 2 weeks of responding to reviews, but quarter over quarter, you should see measured improvements and results. And the why and how you're going to see all of this, it's for local position. It's going to help with SEO and GEO, which I'm not sure if anyone's even thinking about that, but more and more people are also searching in AI. So whether that's ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, is it even called Gemini anymore? But it's how people are starting to search a little bit more and, framing things out like Jeopardy questions. It's going to pull in what's the best pizza place in Northumberland, Pennsylvania. Guess what? Chat is looking at reviews to pull that result in. So be thoughtful of that when you are approaching reviews. And then I don't need to go into this with you. I did want to provide a caveat though, for how to leverage reviews. Marketing, obviously, but just be mindful if you are using a testimonial, if it does pertain sensitive information or identifying details of a person's residence or maybe photos of, say, their home address. Did you do something to the exterior of a home and is their address right there? It's an obvious identifying feature. The person's name is going to be right there. Just make sure that you have permission to do so. And then measuring your success. Say you're starting today. What is your star rating? You obviously know what your revenue is. What is your search rank? And then again, end of the quarter. Has there been a review rating improvement? Has your star rating moved at all? Has your search rank improved? I think one of the maybe lesser thought about review success metrics is, has there been a shift in the type of feedback that you're getting? Were you getting frequent complaints about a server or a pain point related to a specific airline? Are you now not getting that anymore because you took those complaints and you used that as a jumping off point to change some kind of aspect of your business and make an improvement? Are you not getting that anymore? That is a success metric. And then sales growth, of course, and obviously click-through rates to your website. Again, Google reviews are going to win people over. It's a huge, huge, huge opportunity for you to get those click-throughs and calls. And I know this is going long and I've just been talking at you, which I always feel weird about, but I do want to talk about crisis response because it is tied in so heavily to review response management. And as you're building out a framework for reviews, also think about that as an opportunity to think what kind of crisis might impact my business. And it's not always as obvious as you think, but having some game plans or steps prepared and just knowing what you might do in those situations is very important. So again, a crisis may be a lot of different things, but ultimately there's a strategy with a 3-phased approach that is sort of no fail, use it every time. What are you doing within that first 2 hours of the crisis? Do you have key stakeholders that need to be communicated to? Is your business closed? Do you need to let people know that, hey, you're closed for the day, or I'm not delivering a service today? Do you have an investor that you need to reach out to and let them know what's going on? Do you need to contact the authorities? Know who you're going to call in time of crisis. Have a strategic response and a plan for the first 24 hours. Is that putting out a statement? Is that calling a lawyer? There's a lot of different scenarios where you might need to have a crisis plan, and there could be various angles there. And then 3 is ongoing. Did something catastrophic? Was there a natural disaster and your business is wiped out? But you're rebuilding and you need to provide communication over the next few months to people maybe you had contracts with, to people who are interested in what's the status of your next steps and your building. Ultimately, it's an opportunity for you to, again, demonstrate that you care, that you're engaged, and it builds trust with the local community and with your customers. So again, you may be thinking crisis doesn't impact me. Why would I have to think of a crisis management plan? Here's a lot of different scenarios that I can think apply to some people in this room. Physical safety accidents, fire, flood, natural disasters. Has a vehicle crashed through your storefront? Obviously a very random scenario, but it is a possibility. You see those types of things happen a lot. Was a customer or an employee injured on premises? And then employee-related crises, again, we see these quite a lot anymore. Are there allegations of discrimination or harassment? Was an inappropriate content placed on social media? Theft or embezzlement, I was just talking about that with Amber. Hey, it happens. It's something that you need to be prepared for. How are you going to approach that if that happens? And then there's always going to be PR disasters. Is there a viral video of poor service? Is there an accidental, offensive, or insensitive comment placed on social media? Did you accidentally post on your business account thinking it was your personal account? How long was that there before you figured it out and took it down, and who screenshot it? False accusations, are they false? And then operational and legal issues. Did the health department shut you down? Is OSHA investigating your workplace? Was there a lawsuit or tax issues? It could be a paperwork mix-up, but if the local newspaper gets a hold of it, for a small business, that could be a very big, big problem. Business interests becoming, conflicts rather, becoming public. Again, same thing. For a small business, it's a very, very big deal. So how are you going to develop plans or just have a general framework for approaching all of these things? So this is where I plug Cup of Code. Again, the first 3 things that I talked about before, you're going to assess the situation. Are there any key stakeholders that need to be made aware? Research and craft those responses proactively. The guidance that I already provided about review management is a good jumping off point. You're going to monitor for feedback. Has the local newspaper reached out? The local TV station? Is there a blogger who's on your case? That is your sign that you need to consider making a public statement, or that the problem is maybe bigger than you can manage. And that is where these guys come into play, and you need to talk with a professional. I'm guessing a lot of you may not be media trained. You might not feel comfortable appearing on camera and giving a statement, or you might not be sure how to craft a statement. Do you know how to stick to your talking points and not go off on a tangent that might get you in more trouble? So all of those things, Cup of Code can help you with, and I highly encourage, if you're ever in this situation, that you reach out to a professional and make sure that you feel comfortable and confident and prepared. And that's what I've got. Hopefully you have questions, and hopefully I can provide answers. And if not, I'm always happy to look into things and come back and provide answers later.
Yeah, nice. Lori, I have a question for you.
Yes. Oh, wait.
You talked about the neutral,
Yeah.
the 2 or the 3-star or the 3 or the 4-star review.
Yes.
Is there a danger in engaging and starting a conversation, thanking them for the review, and saying, how could we have made this a 5-star experience for you if we're using Google's 5 stars? Can you open yourself up? Is that a can of worms, or should we embrace that this is a genuine conversation and there's credibility in being genuine and allowing for that?
Yeah. I would not frame the response that way. And I would have that conversation when you take it offline. When they actually pick up the phone and call you, I would also be very careful if they follow up via email how you're responding, because again, they could screenshot that email and use that against you on social media too. So just be very, very cautious with how you're framing that response. But I think letting people know that you care, you want to give them the opportunity. You clearly didn't wow them, but you also didn't entirely disappoint them, but you want to learn from that experience. And that's the most important thing to convey there publicly.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we haven't received a lot of negative reviews, thankfully, but we've received a lot of negative comments on, like, related to performances. Not related to like a customer experience, but perhaps if the group is like from Ukraine, for example. We've had people have negative comments, political comments on Facebook. So how would you deal with a negative comment on a Facebook post like that's on our page that's related to something totally inappropriate, like it's a sexual nature, or it's political, or it's racially insensitive or something like that? Would you respond directly? Would you hide the comment? Would you delete the comment? Because if you hide it or delete it, people won't even know it's there. But if you take the time to respond, it's there forever.
Yeah. I'm really hesitant to hide comments, because then you also open yourself up to people pointing out the fact that you're hiding or deleting comments. But I think it's also appropriate in that situation to try and take the conversation offline. I wouldn't necessarily address anything of political nature in that comment. Again, especially it's a cultural center. Right. There's all different people coming through, all different walks of life. You're never going to make anyone completely happy. But especially if you have a very maybe specific viewpoint on an artist and you found their performance to be offensive in some way. But having that one-on-one conversation offline, while difficult still, I think that's the better approach than trying to, again, open yourself up to a back and forth in the comments. And if, again, they choose to engage and try to get you to go back and forth, I would just stop responding. You gave them the opportunity to call and they didn't.
What about a comment that is clearly not a person? It's AI, it's a bot, they're trying to incite you. Like, it's not, it's not real.
Again, I'm hesitant to hide or delete, but if it's very clearly a bot, if it's very clearly someone trying to stoke the flames, then I think it's okay. We do it, but it's so tricky. And I've gotten into, like, there have been a lot of situations that have come up where sometimes comments are evidence. Like, but if you know it's fake, I think it's fine to hide it or delete it. But having that social media literacy goes a long way in being able to identify that too.
I mean, sometimes you can click on the person's name and get a sense from the profile that it's not
real. Yeah. Do they have friends?
Right.
If you
like
have
a brand new account or something.
Yeah, and if you have access to any other tools, which you may not, but there are tools out there like Brandwatch, or even if you go that extra step and just click through on their account, do they have no friends? Do they have, 3 or 4 followers? They're low influence. That is not someone you really need to worry about. It causes panic, but it's not necessarily something that is going to long-term harm your business.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I have another question.
Yeah.
At least in the Google space, there are opportunities to challenge a review that may be inaccurate. It may be charged by a competitor in a similar industry.
Yeah.
You can't simply delete a review that's on a Google business profile.
Right.
Google doesn't allow for that. How would you counsel someone if you're in the restaurant space or you're in the travel industry space or in the chauffeuring space and your competitor goes to leave a negative review?
Mm-hmm.
How would you, and you know that you've never served them as a customer, what's your advice there?
Again, I would keep it short and sweet and offer to have a conversation with them. Why are they doing that? Sometimes just call it, not calling someone out in a way that is super, super pointed, but just putting it out there, being the bigger person, and again, cooler heads prevail. It's going to make you look better ultimately, rather than trying to say or saying, you know, why are you reviewing my business? You've never been to my business. There's no win in that for you from the viewpoint of a potential customer. They're just going to be like, why is he arguing with this guy in the comments?
And can you talk a little bit about the challenge of that? The little hamburger icon, at least in Google, allows you to get to a place to report a review that may be. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of reporting reviews. So every platform has policies and rules and regulations for people who are on them. And it's hard to understand it. Again, in various industries like healthcare, there are rules and regulations where you know that violates a Google policy, or that is not something you can say in a review, and you could get it taken down if you report it. But if something is wholly false, or, you know, something that I didn't touch upon that happens, I'm kind of going off on a tangent, so I apologize, but spam reviews. Did something negative happen at your business, and now unfortunately the whole internet knows and they're spamming your business? You've never served these people. If your business is in, say, Sunbury, and you're getting reviews from Oklahoma and California and Washington State, and it's just people who are mad because they saw something and have now formed an opinion about your business and are negative spam reviewing you. Again, that's an opportunity to report those. They're not legitimate reviews. It's tricky to actually get them reviewed and taken down, and it doesn't always happen in a timely manner, but it is something that unfortunately happens.
That's a good answer.
It was a very roundabout answer.
I think that also, and I don't know if Google is still doing this. I know I focus a lot around Google, but it's the 800-pound gorilla, if you will.
Yeah.
There was a time and a place where they were monetizing reviewers and empowering people to review. And if you're driven only by the dollar and not the review, then you'll seek as many reviews as possible. And you talked about, going down the rabbit hole and trying to verify, is this a real person?
Yeah.
You can go through and see, this person's from out of state, and yet they've given 50 reviews to businesses in the area, and they're all either just a star rating, or it's something super ambivalent to the business, and you could tell that it's not genuine.
Yeah. And I know I didn't read line by line from the presentation, but I'm hoping some of you also picked up, review solicitation and asking people for positive reviews. If you know that you have wowed them and given excellent service and they're really happy, that is absolutely fair game. If you are able to use a service like Reputation or Bird Eye, there's a lot of opportunity there to get into SMS texting at point of sale, for example, or using that as an opportunity. I'm sure you've left the dentist, and the next thing you know, you're not even starting your car and you have a text message from the dentist to review their services. That's a really great way of building up those positive reviews, but you don't have to always go that direction. It could be on your invoice. It could be on your business card, satisfied, leave us a review. It could be at your cash out. So lots of opportunities to drive those positive reviews.
So Laura, what I'm hearing you say, it's never appropriate to come out just ready to blast them.
I wouldn't. No.
The other piece is I really appreciate is the fact, and I didn't even think about it, but when I look at other reviews, that it does seem more human when there's a good mixture. It's not all perfect 5-star. And that I tend to, to your point, I tend to look at some of the negative reviews as, if you go back and read them, that you realize they've already discounted themselves. And I tend to be sympathetic to the business that has to tolerate that. So, but it does make it seem more realistic.
Yeah. And I think everyone knows that and realizes most negative reviews are written in the heat of the moment and people are really upset. And if you wait that 24 hours to respond, often tempers have, fizzled out and people aren't necessarily as upset. Not always, but sometimes they're not necessarily as upset. And just having that moment to talk with them, and that's why I say take the conversation offline. They're often just appreciative that you want to hear what they have to say. And that makes them feel so much better. Whether or not you even solve the problem, it might not even be a problem that can be solved, but it will make them feel better that you reached out and you connected with them. But yeah, absolutely. I think most people recognize that, again, if you're not asking for positive reviews, a lot of times people are just more apt to leave a negative review than a positive review too.
Lori, I like that piece of advice right there. Like, they've probably left that negative review in the heat of the moment. Don't do your response in the heat of the moment. Just take a beat.
Right.
Collect your thoughts the next day or whatever.
Right.
Respond in a different tone than they were there. Strong.
Absolutely. Yeah. CRM. Someone's interested in your service. Absolutely get on that right away. But when it comes to responding to negative reviews, again, do your due diligence, do your research, make sure you're prepared to talk to that person when you respond, because they might pick the phone up right away and call you, or they might send an email right away and say, hey, get in touch with me. I work until 5:00 and provide their phone number. Yeah.
One more and this question for you. So Google, Facebook, of course, broad audience, Yelp. What are some more specific, like industry specific review platforms for different types of industries, different types of businesses? Any thoughts on those?
Yeah, so it's in the healthcare space, ZocDoc, WebMD. I can speak to those because I was in the healthcare space specifically for so long. And that is, again, one of those situations where knowing what's being said on those platforms is really important. It's really difficult, especially at an enterprise level, to respond to everything on every platform, but do the best that you can. But there are a lot of industry-specific platforms.
You didn't talk at all about Amazon. I mean, that's a huge one. Whenever I go on Amazon, I always look at all the reviews, and there's pictures and videos and comments. And I mean, we don't have a business that sells on Amazon, but if you have something that you're, offering to the public on Amazon, that would be, I would think that would be a huge one that you should monitor. Yeah,
absolutely. And it's interesting you bring that up because I have a friend who has a balloon business. I have pugs and I have one pug now, but in the early days of Instagram, I promise there's a point to this, I got to know a lot of pug people all over the world and I'm still very good friends with a few of them. My friend Noelle has a business called 88 Balloons. And there was, within the last, I think, 3 years, not even a review, but it ended up getting her like a barrage of positive reviews. But someone had ordered balloons from her business. She sells on Amazon, cancer. She refunded their money, but she sent them an email and said, your order is still on its way. I agree with your message wholeheartedly, but any kind of last day of chemo treatment, any kind of successful cancer, celebration, you're not paying for that from my business. That is on me. Congratulations, use that money to go buy a cake. And someone shared her response on Twitter. It blew up and she got spammed with all of these positive reviews. And she ended up on social media gaining like 40,000 new followers or some insane. And she's a small business in the UK who does most of her her retail sales through Amazon. So it's absolutely important if you have Amazon it's not necessarily something I think of when it comes, because, I mean, I'm mostly dealing with Google and Facebook and those types of review sites. But yeah, Amazon is, if you're selling on there, you need to absolutely be on top of that, because that is a platform where reviews drive sales.
Now, on social media, Facebook specifically, I've started seeing some businesses that say this business, or some things that along the lines of, this business isn't yet rated, even though it has 2 or 3 reviews. So at what point is Facebook or Meta, or whatever you want to call it this week, going to recognize that, hey, it's got reviews and it has been recognized? Or like my business on Facebook only has 1 Facebook review.
Mhm.
And it's, when you pull it up, it says this business has not been reviewed, even though you can clearly see 1 review.
Yeah.
So at what point do you get enough reviews that Meta starts to recognize, hey, there actually are reviews, good or bad, there is reviews?
That's actually a great question. I've not run into that. I've always been working with businesses that have an abundance of reviews there, but that doesn't mean, I mean, anyone who goes to your page and sees that you have 1 review there, they're going to read that 1 review.
Right.
I would recommend asking your customers to leave reviews so you can start building up more and more. And that way that goes away and you won't have that on there anymore. I'm not sure what the threshold is for that to go away, and I apologize for that.
Either,
I can look that up. Yes. 5.
Yeah, because just customers that I'm dealing with, as I'm getting a lot of my customers off of Facebook, they're like, oh, we really didn't even know if you were legit, because
Okay.
it saw that we have no, it says you guys are
Yeah.
whatever it is. I don't remember the exact verbiage that Facebook uses,
Sure.
but that's how that's.
You've got some homework to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Which I've got my Google reviews, and my Google reviews thrive,
Yeah.
but my Facebook reviews just kind of sit there.
Yeah. And that's an opportunity too on, your business cards, putting the Facebook logo and the Google logo. Having Google reviews is obviously great, but Facebook is a decision-making platform and people are looking for reviews there. Are you also posting to Facebook from
Every day.
Okay.
Yeah, every day it's on Facebook. Every day it's, and that's why I'm just trying to figure out,
Yeah.
what am I doing on the review side, or what can I do in the review side?
I would recommend asking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you solicit your Google reviews?
Yes.
Do you
Okay.
solicit Facebook reviews?
Yes.
Interesting. Are there links to one and not the other?
There
or?
is links to the Google reviews, not the Facebook reviews.
Okay.
Which, that's my fault. I need to start doing that. But there's been a couple people I say ask that hey, can you do a Facebook review? And the response that I get is it's too complicated. They don't know how to do it enough, because if you've never done a Facebook review, you have to look on how to do it. And not every page has that option.
Okay.
Whereas Google, it's cookie cutter. Let us know how you did, or how they did, and you can do. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can have that through in 5 seconds. Whereas Facebook, I can get on any one of our business pages, and they're all set up just a little bit differently. Whereas finding that review or finding the ability to do that review isn't as easy.
Yeah. Not being familiar with how your page is set up, it's hard to say, but I would recommend adding that link for Facebook so that, that's great that you're getting Google reviews. Even better, you're doing review solicitation. A lot of small businesses don't do that, but that's awesome. So adding in that Facebook link may be really helpful.
So I have a question around that idea of soliciting reviews.
Mhm.
What do you say to businesses who are afraid to go out there and ask for them? Because what if somebody gives me a bad review, Laurie, then what?
Yeah. If you're doing review solicitation formally through a platform, and you're able to provide a link and it's especially if it's through text, super, super easy. You're going to see an influx of positive reviews, period. If it's word of mouth, you might see a little bit more of a mix of negative and positive. But all of my experience for SMS requesting is positive, goes through the roof. You are going to get some negative. That's just, you're not going to make everyone happy, like I said, but it is an opportunity within that negative review to not only hopefully win over that person and how you take that conversation offline and respond, but also potential customers. But
That's a question that I know
Yeah.
sometimes that businesses
I
have.
know.
And I know for myself, when I was in business, it always hurts when you know you did not do the thing as well as you would have liked.
Mhm.
But I know for me, it's a learning opportunity as well. So I think
Yeah.
that's one small message that I would put out there. Sometimes that thing that didn't go well, somebody having the courage to tell you about that can be a huge improvement for the longevity, like in the long term for your business. At least that's been my experience.
Agree. It might be an opportunity to make a process improvement, retrain staff. You just don't know.
And that point there, we have a customer with a dozen plus retail locations in a region of the state,
Mhm.
and they unfortunately once every other week, because of the volume of business they do, they see a negative review every 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And they encourage in their review, they thank the person for taking the time. They apologize for that unfortunate incident. They ask for more information in an offline space so
Yeah.
that they can learn, and then talk about promising that they'll work on the culture and the training so that things like this don't happen again. So the only thought that I have as a PR professional is that there's some admittance of a fault or a little bit of responsibility there when perhaps there isn't.
Yeah.
But they err on the side of, 100,000 people are gonna see this profile.
That's just it.
So I want people to know that if a mistake is made, I'm gonna own responsibility. I'm going to talk to the management team.
Mhm.
I'm going to work on training. And I think that is the place that I would encourage everyone with a small business and in that review space to think about is, it's not that one person that we're trying to make happy, and it's not ourselves that we're trying to absolve from any guilt. We're trying to tell the masses that we're a responsible, company, and
Yeah.
we know when that people make mistakes.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we
It shows
embrace
that you care, you want to improve. And there's very real improvements that I've seen as a result of negative reviews. So
Great questions. Any other questions? Wow, Lori, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. This is going to wrap up this BBB. Thank you so much. Yeah, such great information, and I think it applies to whether you're a startup business with 3 or 4 months under your belt, or you've been in it for 30 years. Reputation management applies to us all. So, Lori, Roma, appreciate you and appreciate everybody watching online. And we'll be back for our last BBB installment of the year next month, and we'll take a Thanksgiving and Christmas break and be back in January. But we're going to be talking next month, at the end of the month, with John Essenwine, who's going to be talking about scaling his business and how he was able to do that in a very short time, doubling, tripling, quadrupling his business load by just following the playbook and kind of checking off all the boxes to do the things that small business owners need to do. So thanks again. Take care.